Welcome back, everybody. I hope you've been having a great week. Welcome to another installment of Friday Q&A. Next week's Q&A is going to be the last Q&A for the year, so if you want questions answered next week, get them in the comments below. The comments below. If you want to support what I'm doing, as always, you can buy Ragdoll's music from our Bandcamp store directly, ragdollrock.bandcamp.com, if you prefer your music delivered in a digital format. We're on all the major digital platforms as well, and if you are interested in booking a lesson with me, supporting what I do directly, you can go to musicon.com.au. I've also got a pretty comprehensive library that is being updated pretty regularly with a bunch of content for the Axe Effects, as well as some guitar lessons for beginners. So that's musicon.com.au. All right, I've got the shilling out of the way. Let's get into the questions. Who's my favorite Ozzy Osbourne guitarist? This is a really, really tough one because I absolutely love Randy. I absolutely love J.K. Lee. I love Zach. The album he did with Gus G is pretty cool, and the stuff he did with Joe Holmes was pretty cool as well. And it's easy to forget that Steve Vai co-wrote a lot of Osmosis as well, so he was almost the guitar player for Ozzy, which would have been very, very interesting. But for me, it's really, I just like all of them. It's really hard to say. I spent a lot of time listening to the tribute album. I had 2 CDs that lived in my Discman that I used to listen to on the way to school as a teenager. One was Thin Lizzy's Live and Dangerous album. The other was Ozzy's tribute album. I love Randy's playing on that album. But I would probably lean towards Jake. I think Jake's style is a little bit more in line with what I like to do. I love his soloing. I love his riff writing. Is so creative. I know it's like heresy to say that Randy isn't my favorite Ozzy player. Everybody who's ever played with Ozzy Osbourne has been a phenomenal guitar player. And obviously Zach as well. The early stuff, especially the No More Tears album, that was a huge influence on me growing up. In reality, I really can't split those 3 guys. They're the 3 classic Ozzy Osbourne guitarists. But, just to be the guy who's a little bit different, I will say J.K. Lee. And the follow-up to this was, what do I think of Brad Gillis's playing? Is it the Speak of the Devil, the live album? I've heard and seen a lot of that, and what he was able to pull off was pretty amazing. I think Brad is certainly one of the most underrated guitar players from the whole 80s thing, and his Star Licks video, I think it's Star Licks, there's some really cool stuff on there. That's a really fun one, and I enjoyed watching that. So, yeah, J.K. Lee, just pips the other 2 out of Randy and Zach. I know there were a bunch of other guys who played with Ozzy. And Brad Gillis, pretty impressive. I think if you put anybody else in that situation, they wouldn't have been able to do it as good as Brad did it. Can I do a breakdown of Break You by Ragdoll, and can I tab that? I think I'm going to do that for the next installment of What's That Riff. I've done Heaven Above and I've done Rust so far on that one. So we may as well get through the entire back catalogue of Ragdoll over the next year. So let's do Break You next, because I want to try to tie that one into a discussion about using dyads to write riffs, because that one is just, there's some really unorthodox stuff going on there with playing in a drop tuning, using your thumb over the top and playing dyads on the high string. That's probably a very, very large component of my playing that is kind of, I guess, unorthodox and weird. So Break You is probably the best exponent of that one. So that one is definitely coming. I'll try to get that one done before the end of the year. What do I use to record my voice in these videos? Well, I'm using a Shure SM7B microphone. It's like every YouTuber's favorite mic. It's just up here, so you can't see it. And then all I'm doing is running that into my Universal Audio Apollo Twin. I use 2 plugins, the Neve preamp running Unison, and then I have their LA2A emulation. And then the only thing that I use in Pro Tools is the iZotope Voice Denoise, which I got for free with Pro Tools, which I only realized after 2 years of owning this particular incarnation of Pro Tools. I was like, apparently I get iZotope for free, and I've been using the Voice Denoise literally at the stock settings, and it's really, really good. It's pretty much idiot-proof, and I'm certainly an idiot. So it works really, really well. So yeah, the SM7B, you do need a mic preamp to get the most out of that one, so I'm using the Apollo Twin. Honestly, the Apollo Twin is probably one of the best pieces of gear I've ever bought in my life. It's certainly, in my opinion, one of the best pieces of gear released this decade. But that is a topic for another video, which hopefully I'll get done next week. What about a video looking at a grab-and-go travel board? I've done a few videos. I think I called them like Pedalboard of the Month, and I kind of just didn't keep up with that series. But that would be a really fun one. The idea being either, maybe not as a direct rig, but I'll do it, what sort of board would you build if you had a backline amp? And normally, backline amp is either like, if you're really lucky, it's a JCM 800 or a DSL, but a lot of the time it's a JCM 900, one of the dual reverb amps, or it's an AC30, or it's a Fender Deluxe. It's something like that. Normally, the AC30 and the Fender Deluxe for sort of non-rock gigs, and then the JCM 900 is just like everywhere for the rock stuff. That's been my experience anyway. So yeah, maybe like a little travel board would be fun. I've certainly got a lot of pedals laying around, and I do want to do a few more pedal-based videos. Have I ever played a Bogner Ecstasy? No, I haven't, but believe me, it is high on the list of real amps to try out and demo. So if you live in Perth and you own a Bogner Ecstasy, please get in touch, because I would love to have a thrash through one in the studio and do a detailed demo with it, because, it has this incredible reputation, and I really, really feel like I need to experience that amp firsthand. What is post-rock? It's always interesting when people write these questions on my YouTube, like, hey, I know I'm going to write a question and wait up to 24 hours when I could just type the same thing into a search engine and get an immediate answer that's going to be so much more detailed than what Leon can give you. But for me, post-rock, I always think of a couple of bands. Obviously, probably the more modern incarnation of post-rock, like we're talking about Mogwai. I love God is an Astronaut. You've got Explosions in the Sky, Sigur Rós, all that kind of stuff, where it's not necessarily like verse, chorus, bridge structures with the songs. There's a lot of ambient stuff going on. It is kind of a bit of a no rules thing. Really, anything can kind of be post-rock, I guess, if it doesn't have traditional song structures. But I always think of those bands when I think of post-rock. Caspian, are they post-rock? I like them. They're pretty cool. There's just a bunch of bands that make like really great music that you should check out. So type into your favorite search engine, what is post-rock? Look at all the bands and then look them up and listen to them, because the internet is pretty amazing. What preset was I using for the Whitesnake 1987 5 killer riffs? It's the Axe FX 3, and I did a preset called Lead Delays a little while ago. I did a video breaking that preset down, and I actually just used that preset with all the delays turned off. So from memory, it's one of the Mesa Mark IV models with just a gobload of gain, and I think I'm using a cab that I made. Probably there's one called LT Marv 412 based around a Marshall 4x12 with some vintage 30s. That impulse is available on the Fractal Audio Exchange. So if you get that, dial up one of the Mark IV models, or just go and get my lead delays preset, put that cab in there, turn all the delays off, and you've got that tone. I actually didn't use any post EQ on that, other than like EQ on the bass and the drums to get them sounding sort of ballpark. But once I did that, I found I didn't have to touch the guitar. I didn't add anything to it. And it sounds pretty amazing. Just add a plate reverb in there as well, like the London plate. That's a good one as well, because I did that. And yeah, that's the tone in that video. I'm really happy that so many people liked that. Am I the running guy on the PayPal website? That's really, really funny. I hadn't been made aware of that one. So yeah, if you guys want a good laugh, go to the PayPal website and look up the running guy. And yeah, maybe get them to send me some royalties. What do I think about Winger? Winger are one of my favorite bands. I'm definitely going to do a 5 killer riffs video about Winger, because, as Kip Winger himself says, when Beavis and Butthead lampooned them, their popularity went, "Brr." And I think their third album, Pull, is just an amazing rock album. If you listen to a bunch of the Ragdoll stuff and you go, these guys all like Winger, specifically Winger's Pull album, then it all makes sense. I remember we did a gig with a band called Stitched Up Heart, who have since had a lot of success in the States. We played with them in like Albuquerque or something, and great band. Like, just, they opened for us, and we were like, it was one of those situations where it's like, what is this band doing opening for us? They're amazing. So check out Stitched Up Heart, fantastic band. And their drummer came up to us after our set and he goes, hey man, don't take this the wrong way, but you guys kind of remind me of like a heavier Winger. And I was like, Believe me, I'm not taking that the wrong way. I love that. And he was saying that Rod Morgenstein, the drummer in Winger and the Dixie Dregs, had been one of his drum teachers. So that's a pretty cool little story. Yeah, I absolutely love Winger. Got to do a riff video about them because Reb is the man. And his website used to be one of the funniest things on the internet. He just had all these crazy tour stories and him describing how he's basically Homer Simpson. So yeah, Red Beach seems like a pretty funny dude. I'd love to meet him one day and shake his hand. We're actually doing a Melodic Rock Fest in Melbourne in March, and Kip is doing a solo set there. I wish it was the full band because I just love to meet Reb and say like, man, it's such an injustice that you guys weren't more popular because Pull's such a great album. It was a really, really big influence on me, and he's an amazing player and an amazing singer. Bastard. Like I said before, if you've got questions for next week, it's going to be the last Q&A for the year. Get them in the comments below. As always, thanks to everybody who tunes in. Thanks to everybody who has subscribed to the channel. If you're new to the channel and you're watching this Q&A wondering, who is this guy? Just look through my videos. And if you're feeling generous, hit the subscribe button. I will see you guys next time. Have a great week.